Yes, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a brand new video. We take on Bayern tomorrow in the quarterfinals of the UEFA Champions League, and this is my preferred starting 11. Now, I want PARTEY to come back in the starting 11. I want Kai Havertz to drop out of the starting 11, not because I don't like him, but because I think Gabriel Jesus could be the key for Arsenal in this game. And I'm going to explain why when we dive into that starting 11. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel as well, and I would love to see your changes to the starting 11 that Mikel Arteta should actually put out there. I know most of you would prefer Declan Rice alongside Jorginho, alongside Odegaard, and Kai Havertz alongside Martinelli and Saka, and that is actually a very, very good starting 11. But when you want to target Bayern, and we know Mikel Arteta has been very good at adapting to changes teams make, but also reading into games and reading into how teams play, and then setting up just to beat them. So I think with Bayern, one thing they've really struggled against has been pace in behind. You look at the likes of Jadon Sancho and Karemi Adeyemi, hurting them in that Borussia Dortmund game. You look at how Hayden, beat them over the weekend. Again, that pace and that ball in behind. Players that are willing to run, are defenders players that are willing to, sacrifice and bring in the energy in the game. And that's why I think Gabriel Jesus, with his energy, he was not important only at Brighton, he could be a very important player against Bayern Munich. But anyway, let's get this video to 300 likes. The previews have started. So in goal, I would go with David Raya. I think we all agree that David Raya has been remarkably sensational for Arsenal, clean sheet after clean sheet these days, and I think his ball distribution is actually fantastic as well. But in this game, for David Raya, he's going to be a key player, and I think Bayern will need to stop him, and Thomas Tuchel will need to stop him as one of the players that could actually hurt that Bayern side with that ball in behind that I'm talking about. So when you look at Borussia Dortmund and how they beat Bayern 2-0, obviously I don't think Dortmund are a quality side. And I don't think any of the sides that have beaten Bayern in the last two games are as quality as Arsenal, or as lucky to have a good manager that can read into a game like Arsenal has Mikel Arteta. But when you look at David Raya and his role, right, in games like this, Bayern will love to push up. The likes of Joshua Kimmich, the likes of Mario Goretzka would love to, push up as well. And of course, you'll have the likes of, Kim, the likes of Upamecano trying to push up to the center line. And that is where you want Gabriel Martinelli to start from. That is where you want Gabriel Jesus to start from. That is where you want, Saka to start from. Why? Because you have a player that can actually find them high up the pitch, and that player is David Raya. So I think he's going to be a key player in this game. His throwing is sensational. His early kick is sensational, and of course his accuracy to find a player high up the pitch. So David Raya, one key player there that I've already told you before we even get to the preview, doing into the key battles and key players. I've already told you one key player in this game. The back four for me would stay the same. I think Ben White is going to have a busy evening, and so will be Jakub Kiwior. I would prefer Jakub Kiwior in this game over Tomiyasu. And I would also prefer Jakub Kiwior in this game over Alexander Zinchenko, right? Of course, Julian Timber is highly unlikely to play for us in this game. Now, why would I prefer Kiwior over Tomiyasu, and why would I prefer Kiwior over Zinchenko? I think Zinchenko is sensational, but in this game, offensively, we would massively benefit from him. We would massively overload that Bayern midfield. We know they love to play with Musiala in there, or Sane in there, with Kimmich and Goretzka. So if you have Declan Rice, Martin Odegaard, and Partey, that is, or maybe Jorginho, that is already a midfield three, and then Zinchenko inverting into the midfield just makes it a midfield four. You overload the midfield, and Bayern would actually struggle. But the problem with that is that Bayern have players that are really good at running in behind. We are talking Leroy Sané, we are talking about Jamal Musiala, Serge Gnabry, the likes of Alphonso Davies, who is really, really a monster in terms of pace. So you don't want to leave your left-hand side open with a player like Alexander Zinchenko. And of course, with Tomiyasu, there is a problem. Pace. He really struggles with players that are really very good, at running in behind and have got the pace. Kiwior stand still. We saw that against FC Porto, and I think he deserves to be in this game. He is a sensational player. So Ben White for me has been one of the best right backs in Europe right now. There is no question he will have a busy evening as he will be dealing with one of the best wingers as well in the world in Serge Gnabry or Leroy Sané, depending on how Thomas Tuchel will set up this side. You will see Jamal Musiala as well swapping from this side of the pitch to this side of the pitch as well, and that means that Ben White will be busy and he's got to be active in this game like never before. So for the centre backs, it's going to be William Saliba and Gabriel. Gabriel did look uncomfortable in that Brighton game. Looks like he did pick up something small, but I expect him to be fully fit for this game. I think their job is going to be primarily to stop Harry Kane. He scores against Arsenal every single time he gets the chance, right? And he needs a yard. He needs a half a yard to score against Arsenal. So I think the first job for them will be to stop Harry Kane. And I think they can do that. They've done that against many of the Premier League strikers, against the likes of Salah, against the likes of Haaland, Nunes, and all these other strikers. But Harry Kane is not those guys. Harry Kane has got a higher footballing IQ and he's got a very, very lethal positioning technique. He's one of the players in the world for me that I love about when it comes to positioning. I love Robert Lewandowski. I think the players that I love when it comes to positioning, and I would rate highly, is Harry Kane and Karim Benzema. Benzema, again, sensational. Really, really sensational. So I think, with Saliba and Gabriel, that's the first job. Can they stop Harry Kane? Can they stop that ball into Harry Kane? And when that ball eventually gets into Harry Kane, because we know the likes of Goretzka and Kimmich and Musiala, they have the quality. So they will play that ball into Harry Kane. If that ball is played into Harry Kane, can we still stop him? That will be my back four, and I think that would be the key responsibilities for each of them. Now, instead of Jorginho, I prefer to play Thomas Partey, and not in a single pivot this time, but to play him alongside Declan Rice in a double pivot. Now, I know we have been really, really rated and gassed up that Arsenal don't need to think much about the Bayern game. Arsenal will trash Bayern. Arsenal will do this and that. But if you're going to decimate Bayern, if you're going to discombobulate their setup, you are going to have to work for it. That's the truth. You are going to have to work for it. And I think in this game, Partey and Declan Rice win the game. Partey and Declan Rice lose the game. For me, it's going to be this. Kimmich and Goretzka overpower Partey and Rice, which I don't see happening, and Bayern win the game. Or Rice and Partey overpower Kimmich and Goretzka, and they leave that midfield in total shreds, and Arsenal win the game, which is highly likely for us to see tomorrow. So I won't be surprised if these two start, and I would love to see them, start together, because what they give you as a team is sensational, right? Declan Rice with his ability to drive that ball in for distance and yards, and then Thomas Partey, his ability to progress from deeper areas to advanced areas of the pitch. Again, sensational. Defensively, they are quality, and they will give you that defensive assurance that we saw Arsenal get against Brighton with Jorginho and Declan Rice playing a little bit deeper together. So that would be my midfield pivot, and I don't want anyone complaining about it. Don't. Martin Odegaard, I would prefer him to pick up a different role, but obviously he's going to be the creative masterpiece. But I prefer this to be more of a 4-3-3 rather than a 4-2-3-1. I prefer this to be a 4-3-3. I prefer us to be a little bit heavier in midfield, and I prefer us to be a little bit cautious about Bayern. So I prefer him to play right in this space around there. So I'm just going to pick up my box right. So I prefer Odegaard in this space right here because we've seen him there and he actually occupies that right-hand space very, very much. But also why I think this should be a 4-3-3 is because of what we're going to talk about, how to hurt Bayern. Right? How to hurt Bayern. So obviously for me, Gabriel Martinelli has to come back in Bukayo Saka has to be in this game. Like, even if he's injured, you've got to play him. And then Gabriel Jesus instead of a Kai Havertz. And I'm going to explain this. Why Kai Havertz, for me, wouldn't be the ideal guy, but Gabriel Jesus would be the ideal guy, in my opinion. I know it doesn't make any sense right now because of the form of Kai Havertz, but you've got to listen to me and you've got to give me a chance. Okay, so a midfield three of Rice, Partey, and Odegaard, that should do the job, right? So with Gabriel Martinelli, why I'm desperate for him to play in this game, Karim Adeyemi. So when Bayern were losing to Borussia Dortmund at the Allianz Arena, they faced one or two problems, actually two problems. Problem number one was the brilliance of Jadon Sancho. They simply couldn't deal with him. He's quick, but he's also very good on the ball, especially when he's playing for Borussia Dortmund. Manchester United fans, I'm not talking to you. You will not relate with this. The second problem, Karim Adeyemi, the pace in behind. And you look at the goal he scored, it is clearly pace. It is because of the pace. Dortmund just play that ball in behind. They can trust Karim Adeyemi to run. They can trust Jadon Sancho to run. And I think Arsenal can trust two players to run at this Bayern defense. And those two players are Gabriel Jesus and Gabriel Martinelli. Now, of recent, of course, Saka playing with that injury, he's not been that kind of runner that we want him to be, that kind of guy that just runs at players and, throws the coins and does all this kind of crazy stuff. But at least Gabriel Martinelli still does that, and Gabriel Jesus still does that as well. So with Gabriel Martinelli, I would love him to be a very high starting point on the pitch. I would love us to maybe, contain Bayern at times and then release that ball into Gabriel Martinelli, who we know is lethal in terms of speed, but also is fatal in terms of finishing, and is a very, very clinical player, of course, in front of goal. With Gabriel Jesus, it is the energy. And I picked this from the Liverpool-Manchester United game. Now, Liverpool didn't win the game, and I was watching James Alcott, big up to my boy, and he points to something that I thought Arsenal could use to beat Bayern. And this is what Bayern don't have. Energy, 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 energy. So I want to show you something right here on the board, right? I want to show you something. So you look at this team right here. If you look at the players that are willing to put in a shift, the players that are willing to run, the players that are willing to put in some energy in this Arsenal team, right? I think Bayern cannot cope with us. Bayern cannot cope. And that's why Jesus, again, is a very important player. Energy. I don't know why I did that. I really, really don't know why I did that. I don't know why that arrow is facing this side, right? I'm sorry, right? So let's pick it up. So, energy. Saka is energy. Gabriel Martinelli is energy. Declan Rice is energy. And of course, we know Odegaard is energy. But you know what? Who else is energy? Is this guy, Benjamin White. Dropping into the midfield, energy. But also, when he overlaps and helps out with Saka, energy. So this is one thing that Bayern Munich do not have. They do not have willing runners. They do not have players that are willing to bomb high up and down the pitch. They don't have those players. And Arsenal have players that are willing to do that for 9-10 games consecutively and show that kind of energy, right? So that's why Gabriel Martinelli and Gabriel Jesus, for me, should play. The issue with Gabriel Jesus is that Arsenal will create chances and they will fall onto him and he will not take them. That is my issue with Gabriel Jesus. With Bukayo Saka, of course, we've not talked about him because of a reason. We've got to talk about him last, right? What is Bukayo Saka's serious role in this game? It's not running behind. No, it's not running behind. For Saka's job in this game is to provide the quality Jadon Sancho was providing for Borussia Dortmund. He can keep the ball. He can dribble at a man. He can put in the decent deliveries. But also, most importantly, he can score. He can get into goal-scoring areas and he can score. That is one thing he does better than Jadon Sancho. So for me, this would be my starting 11. I could be wrong about this, really, really wrong about this, but I have a feeling I'm actually not wrong about this, right? David Raya starts in goal. You have Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel, and Kivio. I prefer that. Odegaard, Partey, Rice, Martinelli, Jesus, and Bukayo Saka. Obviously, if Mikel starts Kai Havertz, that won't be a problem. I still think Kai Havertz is a quality player. Let's go and be Bayern.